For the past year or so, I've only been doing 2 working sets for most of my exercises. And I've built a lot of muscle doing so, but not because I wasn't building muscle doing 3 or 4 sets. And oftentimes people ask me why I only do 2 sets now. And what I tell them is it's because I train very hard. And the more intense that each individual set is, the less of them that you actually require to build muscle. So the answer is yes, I would still build muscle doing 3 sets or even 4 sets because of the fact that I already train very hard. The important question that I was trying to answer is simply whether or not that 3rd set is actually necessary. And what I've discovered over the past year is that it's not. Currently, I do about 6 to 8 working sets per major muscle group, like chest, back, and shoulders, at twice a week frequency. And for the small secondary muscles like arms, maybe rear delts and calves or abs, I do even less. And the way I structure it is I perform 2 different exercises on each training day, done all out to 0 reps in reserve, meaning I completed the last rep, but I know for sure that if I tried to get another one, I would fail. Or I just go to complete failure and I'm unable to complete that last rep. I stopped listening to people who were telling me that training to failure generates too much fatigue. Maybe that fatigue is actually coming from the excess amount of volume that these people are doing instead of the required intensity. Now, muscle growth is always going to be a fatiguing activity, but we know that intensity is what's going to drive growth. So why would I hold back on the one thing that's actually pulling the lever so that I can do more of what doesn't, which is volume? And the reason why doing only 2 hard sets works is because the amount of stimulus that you get from each set operates in a diminishing returns fashion. So what that means is you get the most amount of stimulus from the first set when you're fresh and able to push the hardest. And then each subsequent set after that provides less and less stimulus, eventually to the point where it's not even worth it. And what I found is after about that 3rd set, or now what I've come to realize is probably the 2nd set, if you're training hard enough on those first 2, it becomes almost non-existent. Or if there is some benefit that you get, it's not worth the extra effort to do any more sets. So after about 2 or 3, you're basically just doing junk volume. You can't just do 10 sets and get more stimulus than if you do 2 or 3. Once you've triggered growth, you're good to go. You can't just trigger more by doing more, despite what bodybuilding and workout culture has led us to believe. Now, if you're listening to this and you're liking the sound of what I'm saying, getting more out of less work in the gym, it's not too good to be true. I and many other people have now realized this. The only caveat is that those 2 sets that you do need to be intense, meaning 2 muscular failure, or at least very close, like I said, to 0 reps in reserve. I wouldn't recommend leaving more than 1 rep in the tank at the most, which means the rep speed is going to have to slow down significantly toward the end of your set. And yes, it's going to be painful, but that's the only way to build muscle. There's no screwing around here. You need to make these sets count. You don't just get to cut your workout in half and do a couple of easy sets thinking you're going to get amazing results. It doesn't work like that. However, the good news is that you only need to do 2 sets per exercise. You don't have to dread doing that 3rd, 4th, or even 5th set like some programs prescribe. So it actually does become very psychologically beneficial. And what you'll notice that I and many others have noticed is that it actually does improve your ability to train hard. So if you're on a program right now that has you doing 3, 4, 5 sets and you find it extremely hard to maintain a high intensity level on all of them, when you switch to 1 or 2 sets, you will notice a psychological difference. It will allow you to actually train harder because when you know you only have those 2 sets, I don't know what it is, but you just lock in and focus on getting as much out of it as you can. Maybe it's because you know that you don't have to do it for long, or because you only have those 2 sets to accomplish muscle growth. So you can't just screw around and wait for the 5th or 6th set. And once you get used to it and you actually learn how to train with that level of intensity, what you realize is that you really can't actually do that much volume. If you were doing more than about 4 to 5 sets per muscle group in one session, it probably means that you were not training hard enough because, like I said, you're going to realize that if those 4 sets were taken to failure, you'd start to feel the fatigue and your ability to push hard would also diminish along with the stimulus that you get from each subsequent working set. So it actually kind of works hand in hand because the higher your intensity level, the less sets you actually need to stimulate muscle growth. but also the less sets that you can actually do at the required intensity level. Now, if you're someone with a very busy life, maybe you have kids, a full-time job, and you've been wanting to get in shape, but you always thought that fitness was this life-consuming pursuit that demands 2-hour training sessions 6 to 7 times a week with perfect recovery to get results, just understand that that's not true. These are just myths that get portrayed by the lifestyles of people who are the most popular in the industry, the influencers and the professional bodybuilders who do this for a full-time job. The problem is that they never tell you how you can train to fit your lifestyle. It's always about what they do and how they get results, and that's never something that's going to work for you. Because the truth is that nobody actually wants to live in the gym. They just think it's something they have to do to get results. But it's not. It really only takes a few hours per week if you structure your training correctly and train with enough intensity. It's like a dirty little secret of the fitness industry that's finally out, and now I'm sharing it with you.